Hello everyone, and welcome to another IGCSE Helpers video. Today, I will be continuing to solve the Mathematics Paper 2 from May-June 2017. Last time, I went through questions 1 through 6 on page 2. This time, I will be going over questions 7 through 12 on pages 3 and 4. So on page 3, question 7. Find the value of 5a minus 3b when a equals 7 and b equals negative 2. So, in this case, a equals 7 and b equals negative 2. So if we have 5 times 7 and 3 times negative 2. Because in this case, we have 5 times a, and if a equals 7, 5 is multiplied by 7. The same applies for 3b. If b equals negative 2, 3 times b is the same as 3 times negative 2. Now here, 5 times 7 is 35. Meanwhile, this part of the equation is where some people can make mistakes, because it is not 3 times negative 2, it's negative 3 times negative 2, which is not negative 6, but positive 6, so the equation transforms into a 6. Otherwise, if you do multiply it, it turns into negative 6, but then it's minus negative 6, which is also plus 6. So 35 plus 6, using simple addition, is 41. So our final answer is 41. Remember to show you're working for this exercise, as it will get you that second point. Question 8. The diagram shows a straight line intersecting two parallel lines. Find the value of P and the value of Q. This is shown to be not to scale, so you cannot use a protractor to help you out in this. So, due to the rules of parallel lines, this angle here, being parallel with this one here, is the same. So, this angle here is also 70 degrees. And as these two lines are parallel with each other, they create the same angles. So here, once again, we have 70 degrees, which means that Q is 70 degrees. And that's our answer for Q. Now for P, we know that a circle is 360 degrees. Half a circle is therefore 180 degrees, which we can see here, half a circle. This full rotation here would create a full circle and add up to 360 degrees. But what we're looking for, P, only has half of that. So, as P and 70 equal 180, we can say that P plus 70 equals 180. This means that P is 180 minus 70. So in turn, P is 110 degrees, as 110 plus 70 equals 180, creating this angle here, P plus 70. And that is your answer for question 8. Next up, question 9. Without using a calculator, work out 5 over 6 minus 1 over 2, or 5/6 minus 1/2. Show all the steps if you're working and give your answer as a fraction in its simplest form. So we have 5/6 and 1/2. These two do not share a common denominator, or the same lower number. So what we want to do is make these two equal to each other. So 6 is a multiple of 2, as 2 times 3 equals 6. So in this case, we have 5 over 6 minus 2 times 3 and 1 times 3. As everything we do to the denominator, we must also do to the numerator, or the top number. That gives us 5 over 6 minus 3 over 6. And you should be able to tell by now that this number here can also be simplified into 1/2. That would be its simplest form. But right now, we're trying to subtract them from each other, in which case a common denominator makes things easier without a calculator. So as these are fractions, we can simply do 5 minus 3, which is 2. So you get 2/6. But once again, we want the answer in its simplest form. So we have to simplify this. Now a common factor in both of these is 3. 3 goes into 6 twice, and 2 goes into 6 3 times, and 2 goes into 2 once. So 2/6 turns into 1/3. So your final answer should be 1/3. Remember to show your working, as it says here, otherwise you will not receive full marks. Next page, page 4, question 10. First question is nice and simple. Solve. 2 minus x equals 5x plus 1. For questions like these, you want to put all the x's on one side, and if there are no other unknowns, put all the numbers on the other. So in this case, we have a minus x on this side, and a plus x, or a plus 5x, on this side. Meanwhile, we have a 2 here, it's a positive 2, and a positive 1 on this side. So what we do first is we add x to this side, and we subtract 1 from this side. And we do so on both sides. So on one side, we add an x, effectively moving the x to this side, and the 1 to this side. So we end up with 2 minus 1 and 5x plus x, which should give you 1 equals 6x. Now, since we want to find x, as that is what I mean by solve, this is not our final answer, as 1 is 6 times x. So to finish this, we divide both sides by 6, as each side has to have the same treatment. So we end up with 1/6 equals x. And that is our final answer. As it says here, x equals 1/6. Remember to also show your working. Next question, Question 11 has two parts, A and B. Question A, write 0.0605 in standard form. So standard form is written as such: A times 10 to the B. So B is the number of steps, is the number of decimal points it has moved, and A is a number greater than 1, greater or equal to 1, but generally smaller than 10. So in this case, the first number we spot is 6.05. 6.05. Now, in here, we can see that to move towards 0.0605, we would have to move the decimal point 2 spaces, which means that we multiply it 10 to the 2. However, since it's moving back, it is a negative 2. So your final answer should be 6.05 times 10 to the negative 2. Next, question B. Calculate 0.1 times 5.1 times 10 to the 4th, giving your answer in standard form, which is the same form used above. Now, using this rule, we can also find out that 0.1 is actually 10 to the minus 1, as the value would be 1. Moving back 1 is 10 to the negative 1. Or officially, it's 1 times 10 to the negative 1. But anything multiplied by 1 is itself, so 10 to the negative 1. And if we ignore the 5.1 for a moment in this multiplication, we have 10 to the negative 1 times 10 to the 4. If you multiply exponents with the same values, they add. So we have negative 1 plus 4, and that equals 3. So this equals 10 to the 3. Adding the 5.1 back into the multiplication, just like above, we get 5.1, if this would work, 5.1 times 10 to the 3, as the 5.1 is not affected by this calculation, and from this we get 10 to the third. So this is our standard form answer. Question 12. Calculate the value of x in this triangle. In this case, x is the angle here. Now for this question, you would want to use the rules of Sohcahtoa. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. The hypotenuse is the length opposite of the 90 degree. This only works in right-angled triangles. So this is the hypotenuse. As we have a value for the hypotenuse, we can immediately remove tangent from the possibilities, as we would need this value here to create a tangent calculation. Cosine would require adjacent hypotenuse, but the angle adjacent to x, or next to x, is missing. We do not have a value for that, so cosine can be excluded, which leaves us with sine, as this side is the opposite, which means we have an opposite value and a hypotenuse. Sine equals opposite over hypotenuse. So we get sine x equals 4 over 7. Now using your calculator, you can add in arc sine, or sine to the negative 1, 4 over 7. And if you put that into your calculator, you will get the answer of 34.8. Keep in mind, this is a rounded value. They will also accept 34.84 or 34.85, as it is rounded from several decimals. However, I recommend you stick to writing 34.8, as this is proper mathematical notation with 3 significant figures. So your final answer should be 34.8 degrees. And that should be your final answer as to the value of x. And that's it for today. Thank you for listening, and I hope this was helpful for you. Tune in next time for a continuation of this paper.